You step into an ancient, hidden library, the air thick with the scent of parchment and centuries-old leather. Rays of sunlight slip gently through stained glass, painting shifting patterns on dusty shelves that cradle manuscripts of profound and forgotten knowledge. In this place, quiet reigns. Yet, it is a silence charged with possibility, alive with the whisper of ancient wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. It is here we meet Eliphas Levi, a man whose very life was an intersection of devotion, mystery and inquiry. Born Alphonse Louis Constant, Levi emerged from humble beginnings in early 19th century France, initially on the path of priesthood, before turning toward the esoteric mysteries that would define his legacy. His seminal work, The Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic, published in 1856, wasn't simply a book. It was a doorway to understanding universal truths that straddled the line between the seen and unseen worlds. Levi understood magic not as superstition, nor mere entertainment, but as the sacred science of understanding and influencing the hidden forces underlying reality itself. His writings, grounded in scholarship and steeped in symbolism, sought to harmonize the seemingly disparate worlds of religion, philosophy, and science. The result was a profound vision of magic as a disciplined pursuit of spiritual truth. For Levi, high magic, also termed transcendental magic, was distinct from the common perceptions of spellcasting and enchantment. It was not concerned with quick fixes or shallow rituals aimed at fleeting desires. Instead, it sought deeper truths, concerned with nothing less than the fundamental laws of existence. The practice was moral as such as metaphysical, demanding that its practitioners cultivate virtue alongside knowledge. For Levi recognized magic as a profound amplification of human intention. He deliberately structured his work into two complementary halves, doctrine and ritual. Doctrine represented the theoretical aspect, the philosophical understanding of magic, a map of the unseen landscape of existence, richly layered with symbolism and profound philosophical insight gathered from ancient traditions. Ritual was the practical application, the guidebook that instructed initiates on how to navigate and influence this hidden territory through precise actions, disciplined methods, and symbolic ceremony. Levi insisted these two parts were inseparable, mirroring the dual nature of reality itself, mind and matter, spirit and body, theory and practice, all intertwined, each continuously reinforcing and illuminating the other. To Levi, magic was simultaneously an art and a science. As an art, it required creativity, intuition and imagination. The magician in Levi's eyes was a creator who shaped reality through intention, guided by an understanding of symbolic language and spiritual principles. As a science, magic demanded rigor, study and discipline. The adept had to possess meticulous knowledge of ancient symbolism, astrological cycles, elemental correspondences, and the subtle interplay of cosmic energies. Central to Levi's magical philosophy is the concept of the astral light, an omnipresent invisible fluid that connects and sustains all existence. Levi described this astral light as a universal canvas, responsive to the subtle yet powerful strokes of human thought and will. It was the medium through which all magical acts took place, a substance both reflective and responsive, capable of manifesting the adept's intentions into tangible reality. Levi warned that the astral light, while potent, was also deceptive. It held within it both clarity and illusion, truth and distortion. The magician who approached it without proper discipline or moral purity risked becoming ensnared in their own illusions. Levi explained that this deceptive quality stemmed from the astral light's inherent duality, serving as both a mirror and a veil. It reflected not only conscious intentions, but subconscious fears, desires, and biases. Without a disciplined mind, the practitioner could mistakenly perceive subjective fears as external realities, blurring the boundary between imagination and truth. This confusion could lead not just to misdirection in magical workings, but also to profound psychological and spiritual disturbances. Levi emphasized that the magician must cultivate deep introspection, rigorous self-assessment, and continuous refinement of character. The practice of ethical rigor and humility thus became paramount, guiding the practitioner safely through the complex interplay of perception and reality, ensuring clarity in the midst of potential deception. Mastery, therefore, was not about dominion over external forces, but first about understanding and mastering oneself. Only then could the adept navigate the astral light's currents effectively and use it for higher purposes, maintaining clear vision despite its inherent complexities. The ethical dimension was paramount for Levi, who repeatedly emphasized that the power gained through magic came with profound responsibility. Magic amplified the true nature of the individual. For those driven by selfishness or cruelty, the practice of magic was dangerously destructive. Conversely, for those committed to benevolence, wisdom, and compassion, magic became a path towards spiritual enlightenment and meaningful influence. The rituals described by Levi, often misunderstood or misrepresented as mere ceremonial dramatics, were in fact carefully structured tools designed to direct consciousness and harness spiritual energies. Every element in ritual practice had symbolic significance, from the intricate patterns inscribed within magical circles to the precise timing of astrological alignments. These were not arbitrary details, but intentional actions, meant to resonate with universal laws, drawing upon correspondences between macrocosm and microcosm. Levi instructed practitioners on preparation, emphasizing that proper magic began within the magician's own consciousness. Physical rituals were outward expressions of inward purity and intention. Without inner alignment, external actions were meaningless. Purity of heart, clarity of mind, and strength of will were essential prerequisites, making magical practice as much about personal transformation as it was about influencing external circumstances. Throughout history, Levi observed various cultures and traditions had glimpsed aspects of these universal truths. From the alchemists of medieval Europe, who sought transformation and perfection through symbolic processes, to the Kabbalists, who explored the intricate connections between divine and human worlds through mystical interpretation, Levi drew inspiration and validation for his theories. His work unified these diverse strands, presenting a coherent system that transcended cultural boundaries and historical limitations. Yet, Levi's teachings were not without their detractors or misunderstandings. Many contemporaries dismissed his writings as fanciful, misguided, or worse, dangerous and subversive to both religious and scientific thought. Levi himself faced significant personal struggles. His earlier departure from the priesthood, persistent financial hardship, intense public skepticism, and even periods of social exile and alienation. Yet these trials seemed only to sharpen his insights and deepen his convictions. Far from dissuading him, opposition fueled his unwavering determination to reveal a clearer path to enlightenment through the disciplined, deliberate, and often misunderstood practice of high magic. As this journey into Levi's high magic unfolds, we are invited not merely to study abstract theories or rehearse ancient rituals. Levi beckons us toward genuine understanding, a vision of magic that illuminates the interconnectedness of all things. He challenges us to reconsider our relationship with reality, to see ourselves not as passive observers of an external world, but as active participants in an intricate dance of cosmic energies, forever intertwined with the fabric of existence itself. Yet Levi's path was never intended to be easy or immediate. He made it clear from the outset that the pursuit of magical wisdom required commitment, patience, and courage. It required facing one's illusions and confronting uncomfortable truths about oneself and the universe. This, perhaps, is the true initiation, the willingness to venture beyond the familiar comforts of ordinary consciousness and embrace uncertainty and mystery, knowing that the greatest transformations often arise from within. Stepping further into the labyrinth of Eliphas Levi's high magic, we find ourselves crossing a threshold from theoretical foundations to the subtle workings of the magician's inner world. We uncovered Levi's vision of magic as a bridge between science and art, an immense tapestry woven from the astral light, held together by moral rigor and spiritual insight. Now we delve more deeply into two crucial elements that bring these concepts into practical focus: the role of the magician's will and the precise, almost choreographed structure of ritual. Levi's entire philosophy hinges on the concept of will, a term he imbues with transformative power. Far from a mere wish or passing desire, the will is for Levi the sovereign force of the human psyche that, once disciplined, can penetrate the hidden layers of existence. It is the invisible compass by which the magician navigates the astral light, a key that can unlock the gates of possibility or plunge the unprepared into chaos. Most people, Levi observes, allow their will to be scattered among fleeting emotions, fragmented by distractions of daily life. They wish for many things: wealth, love, recognition, but these wishes are seldom consistent or deeply rooted. The true magician, however, channels every fragment of intention and attention into a single unwavering current. This disciplined will is what shapes the astral light, making it respond like molten metal under a craftsman's hammer. Levi's doctrine insists that the adept's will must be purified, focused, and tempered by self-knowledge. Without genuine self-awareness, any attempt at harnessing magical power risks dissolving into mere fantasy. A magician who cannot discern between personal illusions and objective reality can easily mistake daydreams for manifestations, or worse, can sow unintentional chaos by projecting inner turmoil onto the subtle energies of the astral light. Thus, Levi's path of high magic is not about imposing one's whims on the world, but about clarifying the will to a point of near spiritual refinement. Woven into Levi's notion of the will is the idea that concentration is both an art and a discipline. Borrowing concepts that parallel Eastern teachings, though not necessarily derived directly from them, Levi likens the mind to a restless animal that needs gentle yet firm training. To focus one's will on a single point without wavering is a skill requiring daily cultivation. Levi encourages practices that quiet mental chatter, meditative exercises, breathing routines, or silent contemplation of specific symbols or divine names. These serve as the initial crucible where scattered energy is gathered, refined, and made potent. Where modern life chases variety and speed, Levi's magician deliberately slows down. Each moment of conscious concentration is an alchemical act that gradually transforms the dross of mundane thought into the gold of unwavering intent. In Levi's words, one must become master of oneself before daring to become master of external things. Though not always stated so succinctly, the sentiment pervades his teachings. Magic is predicated on interior mastery, rather than external dominance. If will is the internal engine of high magic, then ritual is the track upon which that engine runs. Ritual provides structure, direction, and form to the magician's intent, much as the pages of a musical score guide the inspired energy of a musician. In Levi's system, a ritual is more than a collection of exotic gestures or archaic incantations. It is a symbolic language that communicates intention to the astral light. Recall that Levi posits an underlying unity in all things, mirrored in the principle, as above, so below. Symbols, incenses, sacred geometries, and spoken formulas each correspond to specific vibrations or properties within the astral realm. By systematically combining these elements, the magician orchestrates a mini-cosmos in which their will moves harmoniously with universal forces. Through ritual, in other words, the adept aligns themselves with the cosmic blueprint, rather than clashing blindly against it. Levi describes the elaborate drawings within the magic circle, the placement of objects on the altar, and the sigils inscribed on talismans as outward signs of inward truths. Each star, pentagram, or Hebrew letter is imbued with layered meanings that speak simultaneously to the practitioner's conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the energies woven through the astral light. Thus, the act of tracing a pentagram in the air, perhaps with a consecrated blade or wand, is not a mere flourish. Rather, it is a deliberate imprint of will upon the subtle fabric that surrounds and interpenetrates all material forms. No single gesture is accidental. the direction in which one faces, the hour of the day, and even the planetary associations of the chosen incense work in concert to create a resonant field. While to an outsider it may appear arcane or theatrical, for the magician, every movement, word, and symbol is a precise key, turning in a vast metaphysical lock. Much like a musician reading notes on a staff, the magician reads cosmic signs and returns them as ritualized expression. Yet Levi warns that even the most carefully choreographed ritual rings hollow if performed by one lacking moral and mental preparation. Before stepping into the circle, the adept must purify themselves, physically, emotionally, and mentally. According to Levi, this can include fasting, bathing, wearing robes set apart for ceremonial use, and reciting prayers or invocations to attune the practitioner's spirit to higher ideals. This emphasis on purity extends beyond the body to the interior life. Harboring cruelty, jealousy, or greed distorts the astral light one calls upon, akin to poisoning a well before drawing water. This is why Levi stresses that each component of ritual, from candle placement to incantation, must be approached with reverence and careful intent. The adept's inner state and the external ritual form a feedback loop. Sincerity and moral clarity empower the ritual, while the ritual itself, properly conducted, deepens one's sincerity and devotion. In essence, ritual practice becomes a mirror reflecting back the magician's evolving character, revealing places of strength and weakness in equal measure. One of Levi's more nuanced points is that the magician should not rely on blind faith or dogma. Instead, the adept is encouraged to study wisely religious texts, philosophical treatises, and works of natural science, then synthesize this knowledge within the crucible of personal experience. Ritual is thus both empirical and mystical. Results are observed, tested, and evaluated not merely in terms of external happenings, but by subtle shifts in consciousness and moral development. Levi believed that the best magicians possessed something akin to a scientist's curiosity combined with a prophet's awe. Scholarly research enriched their symbolic vocabulary, while contemplative prayer or meditation kept their motivations lofty. By uniting these modes of being, the practitioner maintained balance and avoided the twin pitfalls of blind superstition and cold materialism. If the will is the driving force and ritual is its structure, the magician's imagination is the spark that brings the entire process to life. Levi cautions that imagination must be disciplined. It is not idle daydreaming, but a creative faculty employed in harmony with the will. Through potent visualization, the magician sees the desired transformation, forging a connection with the astral light in a manner that pure intellectual reasoning seldom achieves. This power of imagination, when paired with unwavering will, can shape intangible forces into tangible outcomes. Yet imagination can be a double-edged sword. Unchecked, it can lead the magician into delusion, confusion, or grandiose fantasies. Levi's teachings, hence, reiterate that imagination must rest upon a foundation of truth-seeking, humility, and ethical consideration. Only in that way does it become a channel for higher realities, rather than a trap for one's ego. Ultimately, all these components, will, ritual, knowledge, imagination, fuse into an alchemical process of personal transformation. As the adept learns to align their inner state with universal laws, they experience revelations about self, cosmos, and spirit. This alignment transcends the idea of magic as a tool for personal gain. Levi envisioned high magic as a path of self-mastery, where the boundary between one's internal and external worlds dissolves. In that dissolution, the adept recognizes that shaping reality begins first with shaping the self. Levi's depiction of magical practice is simultaneously grand and intimate. It is grand because it aspires to unlock the secrets of existence, bridging mortal life with cosmic forces. It is intimate because it demands a profound introspection, forcing each practitioner to confront their moral character and psychological landscape. As such, practicing high magic is as much a spiritual calling as it is a metaphysical study. It is here we see how Levi builds upon the foundations of high magic with practical guidelines, giving the seeker a blueprint for working with the astral light. The nature of the magician's will, the mechanics of ritual, and the ongoing pursuit of moral clarity all intertwine to form a cohesive system. None can be neglected without fracturing the stability of the whole. As we move forward, we will continue to trace Levi's exploration of arcane symbols, delve into his commentary on the archetypes of ancient wisdom, and discover how he guides aspirants through increasingly intricate levels of magical practice. In doing so, we'll witness how each new insight or technique reinforces the ultimate lesson, that the greatest magic lies not in imposing one's will upon the cosmos, but in forging a conscious relationship with its living currents, guided by compassion, humility, and truth. We shall encounter Levi's perspectives on the interplay of divine names, the illusions of so-called black magic, and how the adept must remain eternally vigilant of their own inner shadows. Through it all, remember Levi's cautionary words: to conquer in magic is to conquer oneself. An admonition that each step deeper into the sanctum of high magic also takes us deeper into the sanctuary of our own souls. Moving beyond the foundational principles of will, ritual, and ever-present astral light, Eliphas Levi's journey through high magic leads us into the rich terrain of symbols and archetypes. These serve as a kind of mystical language, an alphabet of divine forces that enables the adept to communicate with and ultimately harmonize the subtle energies that shape the cosmos. In Levi's view, the esoteric tradition spanning from ancient Mesopotamia to medieval Europe converges on a shared premise. Reality, in all its complexity, is governed by hidden correspondences waiting to be deciphered through symbolism. This chapter delves into Levi's Kabbalistic influences and examines how he weaves them into a comprehensive magical framework. While Levi draws on numerous sources, from Christian mysticism to hermetic philosophy, he often returns to the Kabbalah as a vital cornerstone of his system. The Kabbalah, a Jewish mystical tradition concerned with the divine names, the structure of the Sephiroth, and the hidden layers of scripture, complements Levi's belief that the universe is written in a language of symbols. He contends that these sacred letters and names, particularly the Tetragrammaton, are not merely abstract concepts but living, vibrating keys that open gateways to higher levels of understanding. In Levi's perspective, the Hebrew alphabet itself holds an almost alchemical potency. Each letter corresponds to cosmic forces, angelic intelligences, and aspects of the human psyche. When combined in particular ways, these letters become incantations or words of power, resonating through the astral light to create transformation or revelation. Such use of scriptural or Kabbalistic words is never a casual endeavor. They must be uttered with focused will and moral clarity, lest the practitioner's own internal conflicts project illusions into that subtle realm. Beyond the Kabbalistic letters and names, Levi also writes of archetypal figures, universal images, or patterns that, whether through mythology or religious iconography, mirror profound truths about the cosmos and the human condition. He acknowledges that, while different cultures may label these archetypes differently, gods, angels, heroes, cosmic principles, they point to the same energetic realities. Myths of death and rebirth, for example, reappear across time and geography, reflecting the cyclical transformation of spiritual energy and the evolution of the soul. For Levi, engaging with these archetypes in magical practice is a way of tapping into vast reservoirs of energy, carried within the astral light. A magician invoking, say, the archetype of the healer, is less about summoning an external being, and more about aligning with that pattern in nature and psyche, channeling its healing virtue into tangible form. However, Levi cautions that archetypes can cast potent shadows too. An unbalanced focus on warrior archetypes, for example, may feed aggressive impulses or distort one's moral compass if not tempered by wisdom and compassion. One of Levi's most striking assertions is that symbols are not mere representations, They are living conduits linking material reality with higher dimensions. A pentagram, for instance, is not just a star with 5 points. It is an energetic signature that can seal and direct energies according to the adept's intention. Similarly, the Tree of Life, central to Kabbalistic philosophy, maps the levels of being and consciousness, offering the practitioner a structured way to ascend from mundane perception, Malkuth, to divine unity, Kether. Levi envisions the entire cosmos as an interplay of such symbols, each node in creation resonating with specific letters, numbers, or archetypal figures. The adept who learns to read this cosmic tapestry begins to see deeper harmonies, or conversely, critical imbalances that need realignment. Thus, the symbolic universe stands before us like an intricate mosaic. Each piece is discrete, yet all fit together to form a grander picture. For Levi, high magic is the method by which one learns to interpret and, to an extent, rewrite sections of this mosaic through ritual and conscious intent. Although Levi's work is known for its theoretical expansiveness, he does not neglect application. For him, constructing an inner temple in the imagination is the prelude to any external ritual. Within this mental edifice, the magician arranges symbols that correspond to higher truths, like Kabbalistic letters, angelic names, or mythic figures. By meditating on these symbols, one gradually tunes the astral light within, forging an inner resonance that will later manifest in ceremonial practice. These meditative exercises may involve visualizing each sephirah on the Tree of Life as a chamber or throne room, populating it with the symbolic forms suggested by Kabbalistic tradition. Over time, the adept grows intimately familiar with these internal structures, building a personal relationship with the cosmic forces they represent. Thus, when the adept carries out a ritual in the physical world, lighting candles, intoning divine names, aligning astrological hours, they are effectively mirroring the carefully cultivated reality of their inner temple. Levi places special emphasis on the power of names and the mystical nature of numbers. Drawing on the Kabbalistic practice of gematria, assigning numerical values to letters and words, he contends that language has mathematical and vibrational properties. To Levi, words are not random signifiers. They can be precise keys that, when spoken aloud, shift the balance within the astral light. This is why, in his rituals, letters of the Hebrew alphabet may be traced in the air, or numerical formulas recited. These are not empty gestures, but calibrated operations on the subtle plane. Moreover, Levi believed that numbers themselves hold archetypal significance. 3 symbolizes the triune aspects of nature: mind, body, spirit. 4 corresponds to the elements, and 5 often denotes the human microcosm as captured by the pentagram. Rather than using these numbers as mere trinkets of numerology, Levi integrates them into every dimension of his magical system, from the geometry of ritual space to the layered interpretive schemes of symbolic texts. Levi's brilliance lies not only in the details he presents, like Kabbalistic correspondences or the layout of altars, but in how he synthesizes these elements into a single coherent worldview. Just as we've been introduced to the concept of high magic, and Levi further guided us through the practical mechanisms of will and ritual, this third phase showcases how Levi's system stands on the shoulders of ancient wisdom. He extracts from Egyptian, Greek, and Hebrew mysticism, weaving them into a universal tapestry. By doing so, he invites the adept to see beyond labels, dogmas, or localized religious customs, and instead perceive the underlying grammar of the universe that all true traditions share. Interestingly, Levi does not demand blind acceptance of these syntheses. He encourages study of the Pentateuch, the Gospels, the Talmud, the hermetic texts, insisting that cross-referencing these sources helps the seeker gain clarity. Symbols gain depth when examined from multiple perspectives, and the illusions that might arise from a singular viewpoint are mitigated by broader scholarship. In Levi's ideal, the magician is part sage, part historian, and part poet. one who merges analytical rigor with creative devotion. However, Levi also warns against the trap of fetishizing symbols themselves. It is easy to become enamored with the aesthetic allure of mystical diagrams or elaborate inscriptions, forgetting that these are ultimately pointers toward truth, not truth itself. In a cautionary tone, he explains how people can get lost in labyrinths of symbol without ever engaging in true spiritual transformation. Collecting occult images or memorizing correspondences cannot substitute for genuine introspection and moral effort. In other words, the adept must remember that each symbol is a doorway. Stepping through that doorway involves personal risk, facing subconscious fears, accepting the need for ethical development, and wrestling with one's own shadows. Thus, a reappearing refrain in Levi's work is that magic is fundamentally an inward path, wherein external gestures serve primarily as catalysts for inward growth. By the conclusion of this third segment, the interplay of Kabbalistic thought, archetypal energies, and symbolic language should be clearer. Levi's system is no mere catalogue of obscure references. It's an integrated approach that unites metaphysical insight, moral responsibility, and psychological depth. It is, in essence, a path of self-discovery, using the cosmos as both a mirror and a teacher. With every invocation, every contemplation of sacred letters, the magician aligns more fully with an underlying cosmic harmony, if guided by humility and wisdom. As we journey further, we'll see how Levi invites practitioners to delve into the complexities of doctrine, the luminous code of universal principles, and ritual, the lived expression of those principles in sacred ceremonies. Future segments will address Levi's views on evocation, talismanic magic, and the moral pitfalls that ensnare the prideful adept. In all these aspects, the consistent thread is the adept's evolving relationship with symbols. They become the stepping stones across the threshold from limited perception to illuminated awareness. Ultimately, whether one views Levi's teachings as historical curiosity, spiritual tradition, or metaphysical science, his emphasis on the active engagement with symbols points to a timeless truth. We navigate our inner and outer worlds guided by concepts, metaphors, and images. Recognizing how they shape us and how we can shape them in return is at the core of the magician's craft. Through these lenses, the symbol becomes the teacher, the ritual becomes the lesson, and the astral energies become the language of dialogue between the finite self and an infinite cosmos. As we progress in our exploration of Eliphas Levi's high magic, we arrive at a crossroads, where the aspirant must confront not only higher realms of possibility, but also the lurking dangers inherent in occult work. Now we turn to those practices where misunderstanding or moral laxity can invite real peril, both psychologically and spiritually. Specifically, Levi's writings on necromancy, often sensationalized by outsiders, demonstrate the fine line between illumination and self-deception, between invoking higher truths and succumbing to illusory shadows. Necromancy in popular imagination conjures images of morbid, candlelit rites to summon the spirits of the dead for secret knowledge or personal gain. In Levi's framework, however, the term encompasses any attempt to contact discarnate intelligences, from ancestral spirits to ghostly apparitions. He does not deny that such contact is possible, rather he warns that such pursuits are fraught with hazards, primarily due to the illusory and reflective nature of the astral light. Where many see necromancy as a direct dialogue with the deceased, Levi suggests that what the necromancer often contacts might be mere echoes or impressions, energetic residues shaped by the operator's own psyche and imprinted upon the astral light. Yet, because these impressions can feel and look startlingly real, those ungrounded in moral clarity or rigorous self-knowledge may mistake internal projections for actual discarnate entities. To Levi, approaching necromancy without a disciplined heart and mind is akin to stumbling into a hall of mirrors. Every fear or hidden desire can manifest in seemingly external forms, compounding confusion and risk. In Levi's eyes, this risk is not just theoretical. He recounts tales, some legendary, some personal anecdote, of would-be necromancers descending into psychological torment because they could not distinguish between authentic spirit contact and the illusions conjured by their own unresolved turmoil. In Levi's schema, the magician who seeks communion with spiritual intelligences must cultivate humility and a methodical approach to verifying phenomena. An adept might call upon divine names or use ritual signs not for theatrical effect, but to ensure the conjured presence resonates with higher truth rather than feeding on personal fear. Even for those well prepared, Levi cautions against obsession with the dead or with ephemeral phenomena. Dwelling excessively on shadows of the past can lock the magician into stagnation. True high magic, in his view, aims at transcendence and growth, seeking wisdom that orients the practitioner toward the divine source, not the flickering ghosts of bygone eras. Thus, necromancy, if practiced at all, should be approached sparingly, and with a reverent mindset that prioritizes moral intention and clarity over curiosity. In tandem with necromancy and other advanced practices, Levi emphasizes the concept of protective measures, most famously the ritual magic circle. Far from a simple geometric shape, the circle symbolizes a microcosm shielded from chaotic or malevolent influences. Drawn with precision and inscribed with sacred names or sigils, it is designed to reinforce the magician's will and maintain purity of purpose. Within its circumference, the adept stands figuratively and literally at the center of a sanctified space, aligning themselves with the highest principles and barring entry to spiritual forces that do not resonate with that alignment. Levi teaches that the circle's efficacy relies partly on symbolic power, its circumference representing wholeness and unity, and partly on the psychological imprint it leaves on the magician. Stepping across that boundary, the adept makes a commitment. Within this space, I stand in moral and spiritual integrity. If that integrity is lacking, no geometric figure can offer real protection. The circle, like every other tool in high magic, functions as an outward sign of an inward truth. Another area where Levi provides guidance is the emotional landscape of magical practice. Natural fear arises when one contemplates opening portals to unseen realms, and Levi warns that fear, if unchecked, can distort perception. Interestingly, he does not advocate suppressing this fear outright, but rather transforming it into respectful caution. By recognizing fear as a protective instinct, the magician remains alert to potential missteps. However, once fear becomes panic or paranoia, it acts as a magnet for illusions in the astral light, drawing the very phenomena one most wishes to avoid. In this way, Levi reveals the psychological dance at the heart of advanced occult work. The adept must remain open to genuine spiritual insights, while neither clinging to naive optimism nor succumbing to paralyzing dread. This balanced posture, at once focused, self-aware, and morally grounded, forms the ideal vantage point from which the magician engages with the unknown. Levi's chapters on exorcism and cleansing rituals often read like a stern warning. They are replete with references to biblical exorcisms, ancient pagan rites, and medieval Catholic formulas. While the uninitiated might find these references archaic or quaint, Levi treats them as signposts for tapping into collective human wisdom. From his perspective, the actual words used, Latin prayers, Hebrew psalms, or folk incantations, matter less than the underlying intent and moral alignment of the practitioner. Just as in necromancy, illusions can multiply when dealing with alleged demonic or negative presences. Levi urges discernment. Is this dark entity an external force or a projection of personal guilt, anger, or trauma surfacing in symbolic form? Exorcism rituals, accompanied by prayers or conjurations, help the adept focus their will on dispelling these negative energies. Yet, the process also demands inner work. sincere reflection on what personal shadows might be fueling the phenomenon. Thus, exorcism becomes both a literal and metaphorical act, purging both the environment and the practitioner's psyche of corrupting influences. By now it should be evident that Levi consistently frames magical practice within an ethical context. Whether summoning spirits of the departed, warding off malevolent presences, or simply engaging in the advanced use of symbols, the magician is expected to serve a higher moral purpose. Power corrupts, Levi all but states, unless that power is safeguarded by a commitment to benevolence and truth. In practical terms, this means that manipulative uses of necromancy, attempts to coerce or harm others, or casual dabbling born of selfish whims, stand at odds with the spirit of high magic. Levi contends that the cosmos, especially the astral dimension, carries a self-correcting equilibrium. Actions taken against divine order eventually rebound on the magician, either shattering their illusions or plunging them into deeper darkness. Thus, advanced operations like necromancy, spirit conjuration, and exorcism require unwavering clarity of conscience. Reflecting Levi's broader conviction that the practice of magic mirrors the character of the practitioner. One reason Levi's writings on necromancy and spirit interaction remain relevant is that he underscores the importance of education and discretion. Just as an untrained chemist risks blowing up a lab by mixing reactive compounds, an unprepared magician can court disaster by improperly handling volatile astral energies. Levi advocates thorough study, not just of occult texts, but of philosophy, theology, and the sciences, so that the magician's understanding is broad and nuanced. In today's terms, we might interpret Levi's caution as a warning about sensationalized or commodified occult information. Reading a random spell online or performing a half-understood necromantic rite can open channels the practitioner lacks the skill to navigate. He encourages cultivating a strong intellectual foundation, seeking reputable teachers where possible, and practicing incremental mastery rather than leaping headlong into advanced methods. Notwithstanding the dangers Levi highlights, these advanced aspects of high magic, communing with spirits, exercising negativity, and erecting protective barriers, are not ends in themselves. They are stepping stones toward a more profound engagement with cosmic law and divine wisdom. The adept who comes to terms with the shadowy corners of the astral world, who squares their moral compass and sharpens their discernment, is better prepared to explore the luminous, transcendent dimensions that high magic ultimately promises. In upcoming sections, we will return to Levi's central message of unity between the seen and unseen, examining how deeper knowledge of symbolic archetypes and ritual practices can elevate the practitioner from fear or mere spectacle into genuine spiritual insight. The trials and tribulations faced along the way become teachers in their own right, forging an unshakable resolve and an ever clearer sense of purpose. Levi's openness in discussing necromancy and protective magic underscores a crucial principle. The shadows we fear contain lessons we must learn. As the magician confronts illusions, negative entities, or personal demons, they gain a more authentic grasp of the astral light's true nature, both its luminous potential and its deceptive pitfalls. Through careful ritual design, ethical steadfastness, and an unwavering commitment to self-examination, the adept transforms what could be a perilous journey into an opportunity for growth and enlightenment. Thus, Chapter 4 reminds us that high magic is not a realm of unalloyed wonders. It is also a crucible where illusions are shattered and moral fibre tested. The aspiring adept who braves these depths responsibly emerges tempered and wise, armed with the discernment needed to handle greater mysteries. With the shadows confronted and the lessons absorbed, the path opens toward even higher realms of spiritual exploration, ones that promise awe, knowledge, and unity with the deeper currents of existence. Having explored the moral underpinnings of high magic, the dangers of self-deception, and the contours of spirit interaction, we now shift our gaze to the celestial sphere and the subtle yet powerful influences it exerts on the magician's work. According to Eliphas Levi, the motions of the planets and stars do more than merely mark the passage of time. They shape the currents within the astral light. The adept who learns to read these cosmic signatures and forge talismans in alignment with them gains a potent means to channel distinct energies. Closely intertwined with this celestial framework is another concept Levi often references: the magical chain, a linking of wills that amplifies and directs intention. In this chapter, we uncover how these elements fit together in Levi's grand vision of high magic. In Levi's worldview, everything in creation is bound together by sympathetic resonances, often expressed through numerical and symbolic correspondences. The planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon, were, in his eyes, more than celestial bodies. Each carried its own energetic signature. Saturn influences discipline and testing. The Sun imparts vitality and illumination. Venus governs love and harmony, and so forth. Levi's use of planetary influences was rooted in a hermetic paradigm that traced back to classical astrology and medieval magic. He believed these planetary forces were not capricious powers, but rather cosmic manifestations of divine will. To work with them meant standing in attunement, ensuring that the adept's inner state matched the specific planetary vibration. Just as a violin string must be tuned to match the notes in a piece of music, so must the magician's mind and heart be tuned to the celestial forces. For Levi, the study of astrology, while less empirical by modern scientific standards, was a disciplined attempt to correlate earthly events with astral shifts. Interpreting planetary movements was akin to reading cosmic footnotes that illuminated deeper spiritual currents. This reading demanded humility. While the stars could hint at opportunities or tensions, it was ultimately the adept's moral and mental clarity that determined the outcome of magical endeavors. Talismanic magic offers a practical application of these planetary principles. A talisman, in Levi's system, is a consecrated object, often inscribed with symbols, planetary seals, or divine names, that serves as a focal point for the astral light. Levi insists that the creation of a talisman must coincide with carefully chosen astrological conditions. If one seeks to craft a talisman for courage, for instance, aligning its creation with Mars's favourable aspects might enhance its potency. Yet Levi is quick to caution that a talisman's effectiveness does not derive from the object itself. The physical artifact is merely a vessel. Real power comes from the disciplined will of the magician and the congruence of the magician's internal state with the planetary forces being invoked. A talisman can be a ring engraved with a specific symbol, a parchment marked with sacred lettering, or even a small metallic plate. Whatever its form, Levi emphasizes the moral dimension. To create a talisman for harmful or manipulative ends is not only unethical, but it courts karmic backlash. He also underlines the importance of consecration, a ritual act that sanctifies the talisman under auspicious conditions. This ceremony might include prayers, incantations, and symbolic offerings that anchor the adept's intention into the object. In Levi's writings, planetary days and hours are meticulously chosen for this work. Sunday for solar talismans, vitality, leadership. Monday for lunar talismans, intuition, emotion. Tuesday for Mars, courage, conflict resolution, and so on. The adept observes these time frames as if following a cosmic schedule, believing that each day and hour resonates with the planet in question. Alongside celestial correspondences, Levi introduces the idea of the magical chain, also called the hermetic chain, which is essentially a collective or networked effort of human wills working in unison. In contrast to solitary magic, where a single practitioner focuses their will, the chain amplifies intention through shared mental and emotional alignment. Levi points out that this phenomenon occurs even outside of formal occult practices. Large gatherings, be they religious congregations, political rallies, or even passionate crowds at sporting events, generate group energy that impacts individual minds and shapes collective sentiment. Levi saw this group force as an extension of the astral light. When individuals unite around a singular aim, Be it a prayer, an ideal, or a carefully orchestrated ritual, they create a powerful conduit through which astral energies flow. If each participant maintains clarity and moral focus, the combined will can achieve significant results that might be beyond the grasp of any lone magician. Conversely, if the chain is polluted by selfish motives, fear, or discord, it can collapse into collective delusion or destructive mania. Levi's concept of the magical chain underscores a universal principle in his system. Intention resonates. Just as a well-crafted talisman is more than a mere object, a ritual with multiple participants is more than the sum of its parts. In forging or joining a chain, each individual must guard their inner alignment. The group's final outcome reflects the moral and psychological composition of its members. In practical terms, Levi suggests that group rituals or ceremonies require meticulous planning, from the choice of location, which should be consecrated or purified, to the selection of participants, who must share a sincere dedication to the ritual's stated purpose. Every detail matters. If just one participant carries a hidden agenda or harbors negativity, the chain can be compromised. This is particularly crucial if the rite in question calls upon planetary energies or aims to manifest a significant shift in the astral light. To sustain focus, Levi encourages using shared liturgies or hymns that keep everyone's minds attuned to a single theme, whether it's healing, spiritual ascension, or protection. Visual aids, like a central altar decorated with planetary symbols, help participants anchor their thoughts in the same direction. The success of a group operation, in his view, comes as much from the synergy of wills as from any external cosmic force. One of the more advanced ideas in Levi's system is combining talismanic magic with the magical chain. In such cases, a group might consecrate a talisman collectively, each participant lending their focused energy to imbue the object with a potent unity of purpose. This synergy, Levi argues, can yield talismans with extraordinary resonance, given that multiple aligned minds are shaping the astral light in unison. However, the inherent caution applies. If the group's moral compass is skewed, the amplified energy might recoil in unforeseen ways. Thus, an elaborate chain might be formed, for instance, on a Thursday aligned with Jupiter's hour to create a talisman for justice, wisdom, or benevolence in leadership. The members gather, recite conjurations or psalms that highlight Jupiter's attributes, and collectively visualize an outpouring of magnanimous energy into the chosen artifact. Done with sincerity and ethical grounding, such a talisman could be employed in future works for community well-being or spiritual guidance, reflecting the group's shared aspiration. While some critics of occult traditions see group magic as manipulative or even cultish, Levi insists that the system's moral scaffolding prevents such descent into tyranny. Provided the participants uphold their ethical commitments, his repeated refrain, "Know thyself, rule thyself," applies doubly in a group context. He warns that any chain formed without deep introspection is prone to illusions and potentially catastrophic results. The more powerful the chain's energy, the more devastating the fallout if it is guided by blind ego or greed. By championing a moral imperative, Levi preserves a spiritual dimension in magic that transcends mere technique. Planetary correspondences and talismanic inscriptions may be meticulously observed, but without the substance of virtue and genuine goodwill, these practices become hollow or even dangerous. For Levi, the heart of magic remains the aspiration to align human will with the divine order, a perspective that upholds humility, compassion, and enlightened stewardship of astral forces. By introducing the interplay of planetary energies, talismans, and the collective dynamic of the magical chain, Levi broadens the practitioner's horizons. No longer is the adept solely an individual in a solitary circle, grappling with personal illusions. Through chain work, one can pool insights, share faith, and harness a greater magnitude of astral potential, yet also accept a heavier moral responsibility. This communal dimension heralds the possibility that high magic can serve as an agent of positive change, not just for the magician, but for a broader community or cause. In the segments to come, we will delve deeper into how Levi reconciles these potent cosmic tools with the demands of daily life and spiritual growth. We'll also examine his perspective on how an adept deals with success and failure alike, maintaining equilibrium even when magical operations produce dramatic or unexpected results. Ultimately, these explorations reveal a system that is richly layered, in which every step, whether forging a talisman, joining a chain, or simply understanding celestial influences, requires both technical mastery and unwavering moral clarity. When practiced with integrity, Levi suggests planetary magic and collective will can serve as a luminous testament to humanity's capacity for co-creation with the cosmos. Yet, the caution always stands. One must never lose sight of the fact that the real seat of power lies within the adept's purified heart and mind, rather than in any external object or astrological alignment. Talismanic art and group synergy remain tools, remarkably potent ones, through which the genuine magic of will, faith, and virtue can shine. Stepping further along the path of high magic, we discover that Eliphas Levi's system is not limited to ritual operations, planetary alignments, or the forging of talismans. A deeper undercurrent runs through his writings, the quest for an inner transformation that echoes the aims of the alchemists, known variously as the Great Work, the Magnum Opus, or the highest form of spiritual attainment. This quest uses alchemical symbolism, metals, furnaces, elixirs, as a metaphor for the evolution of the self. In this chapter, we examine Levi's interpretation of alchemy, seeing how he integrated its imagery and philosophy into his broader vision of the adept's journey. Alchemy has long been misunderstood as a purely material pursuit, turning lead into gold or concocting a mythical elixir of life. Levi does not dismiss these legendary aspects outright, but insists that their true significance lies in the realm of spiritual transformation. In his view, early alchemical texts cleverly veiled the esoteric teachings in cryptical language, using laboratory metaphors to communicate profound truths about self-transmutation. Levi drew on the works of such figures as Paracelsus, Raymond Lull, and Nicholas Flamel, believing that their cryptic recipes described dual processes, physical experiments and spiritual metamorphosis. From these sources, he gleaned the concept that one must purify the base metals of the ego to unlock the gold of higher consciousness. Thus, any physical attempt to alchemical transmutation, if taken literally, misses the point unless it is accompanied by the forging of a more enlightened interior life. Fundamental to this alchemical process, according to Levi, is the idea of purification. Just as the alchemist heats raw ore in a furnace to separate impurities, the adept endures trials, disciplines, and introspections to cleanse negative tendencies. Pride, envy, lust, or greed. These might be likened to the dross contaminating the soul's precious metal. Through meditation, ethical living, and the disciplined practices of high magic, ritual, will training, and moral vigilance, the adept systematically removes these impurities. Levi's emphasis on moral integrity, repeated throughout his teachings, becomes an explicit echo of the alchemical axiom solve e coagula, dissolve and recombine. Old habits and illusions must be dissolved, freeing the adept to reconstitute their being at a higher vibration. By building upon the lessons of earlier chapters, discernment in necromancy, ethical boundaries in group work, and sincere devotion to cosmic principles, the magician ensures that each step in the great work is grounded in personal responsibility and humility. Levi often likens the furnace of alchemical texts to the intense mental focus and spiritual passion required for self-transformation. Just as chemical reactions depend on sustained heat, spiritual transmutation relies on the fire of will, the unwavering determination that drives the adept through inner confrontations. However, Levi cautions that excessive heat can scorch the nascent soul if untempered by discernment. Blind zeal or fanaticism can warp moral judgment, leading to destructive pride or dogmatism. Like an experienced alchemist carefully controlling temperature, the magician must moderate their fervor with patience, ensuring that revelations and breakthroughs are integrated gradually rather than forced. Alchemical transformation, in Levi's interpretation, is neither instantaneous nor haphazard. It unfolds as a systematic process that respects natural rhythms. One of Levi's most controversial contributions to occult imagery is his depiction of Baphomet, often misunderstood as a demonic figure. In Levi's text, however, Baphomet represents the reconciliation of polarities, light and darkness, male and female, matter and spirit, embodied in a single symbolic form. Alchemists too spoke of uniting contraries, referencing the chemical wedding of sulfur and mercury, or the conjunction that births the philosopher's stone. For Levi, Baphomet personifies the alchemical union of opposites, a cryptic, composite being that embodies a higher balance beyond human dualities. Rather than worshipping an idol, he uses Baphomet to illustrate that the adept's great work involves accepting and harmonizing seemingly contradictory aspects of the self. Fear and courage, intellect and intuition, action and surrender. By finding equilibrium among these forces, the magician approximates the cosmic unity that underpins existence. Like many alchemists before him, Levi occasionally refers to the philosopher's stone, that legendary substance said to grant immortality and limitless wealth. Yet he frames it metaphorically, insisting that the true stone is the adept's stabilized, illuminated consciousness. When the great work is completed, though in truth Levi suggests it is an ongoing journey, the magician grasps a new vantage point from which the illusions of time and ego loosen their hold. In this sense, the stone symbolizes the soul's transformation from flawed mortal awareness to a refined state of near-divine insight. Worldly wealth may be a byproduct. Some alchemists claimed that discovering the stone made literal gold-making possible, but Levi's main thrust is spiritual. The philosopher's stone signifies unshakable spiritual awakening, a condition where the adept navigates life with clarity, compassion, and unwavering moral fortitude. Within the lore of alchemy, the philosopher's stone often goes hand in hand with the universal medicine, said to cure all ills. Levi, adopting the same symbolic approach, envisions a universal healing principle that emerges when one's internal energies achieve harmony. This healing begins within the magician's own body and psyche. Emotional wounds, harmful habits, and self-limiting beliefs give way to a freer, healthier existence. Levi also suggests that such healing can extend outward. Just as an alchemical tincture might restore vitality to the sick, the spiritually awakened magician may bring solace and guidance to those in need, using their refined consciousness to foster balance and well-being in the wider community. This philanthropic dimension underlines a recurrent theme. Magic is not self-serving trickery, but a stewardship of cosmic forces meant to uplift humanity. In describing the stages of the great work, Levi acknowledges a series of trials or alchemical colours: black, nigredo; white, albedo; yellow, citrinitas; and red, rubedo. Each colour symbolises a phase of inner transformation, from the dissolution of egoic darkness to the dawning of insight, and finally the radiant merging with cosmic essence. Though Levi never reduces these stages to a simplistic formula, his allusions make it clear that the adept must undergo both crisis and renewal. By referencing these colour-coded phases, Levi links high magic to a broader mystical tradition that sees suffering and difficulty not as obstacles, but as catalysts for refining the soul. Much like a metal hammered on an anvil, the human spirit is forged in adversity. The adept emerges tempered and resilient, each stage bringing deeper clarity and aligning them more closely with divine truth. One might ask, how does Levi's alchemical metaphor mesh with the practical aspects of high magic, like planetary talismans, protective circles, or group ceremonies? Far from treating these as contradictory pursuits, Levi emphasizes their complementary nature. Outward ceremonies align the adept's actions with cosmic cycles, while alchemical contemplation refines the adept's mind and heart, ensuring that ceremonial power is exercised ethically and insightfully. He encourages practitioners never to lose sight of their inner dimension, Rituals might open doors in the astral light or channel specific energies, but only an alchemical approach transforms the magician into a stable and beneficent conduit for those energies. An adept who pursues magical rituals without internal purification is like an alchemist trying to produce gold from lead without eliminating impurities, a vain endeavour that leads to disillusionment or spiritual crisis. Levi believed that alchemy's symbolic framework transcended culture and creed. He noted parallels in Eastern traditions such as Taoist internal alchemy and in hermetic, Gnostic and Christian mythical writings. This universality impressed upon him that the great work was neither a parochial secret nor a historical curiosity. It was a universal blueprint for human spiritual evolution. By speaking of alchemy, he tapped into a shared language that encompassed philosophical, religious, and scientific perspectives across centuries. In doing so, Levi once again advanced his broader goal, unifying the world's wisdom traditions under a single coherent system of high magic. The alchemical allegories of the furnace, the philosopher's stone, and the universal medicine provided him with potent imagery to highlight that magic is, at its core, an inner pursuit of self-perfection, one that graciously extends its benefits to others, reflecting the moral dimension so central to his philosophy. The 6th chapter underscores that Levi's high magic is not just a series of dramatic rites or specialized spells. It is a transformative path. Alchemical symbolism, with its cryptic recipes and arcane icons, becomes the lens through which Levi frames the deepest aims of the adept: to dissolve the barriers of ego, to combine the higher and lower aspects of self, and to emerge radiant, like gold purified in the crucible. The result is not simply a successful magical operation, but a transformed being who navigates existence with renewed purpose and compassion. As we move forward in our exploration of Levi's teachings, we will encounter further reflections on how this alchemical journey fits into day-to-day practice, how the adept reconciles spiritual attainment with the realities of mortal life, and how Levi's approach resonates or clashes with other esoteric systems. But for now, we close this chapter by reaffirming the heart of Levi's message, that all the tools, symbols and rituals of high magic ultimately serve the great work, an ongoing quest to refine the practitioner's very soul into a luminous, enduring truth. As we progress deeper into Eliphas Levi's universe of high magic, we begin to see how his doctrines and rituals manifest in tangible practice. In earlier chapters, we explored the moral framework, the interplay of planetary forces, the forging of talismans, and even the alchemical underpinnings that speak to the great work. Now it is time to examine a more material dimension of Levi's system: the magical implements, the sword, the wand, the chalice, and the pentacle, among others, and the idea that the adept takes on a quasi-priestly role, bridging the divine and the mundane. These instruments are not mere props or theatrical ornaments. Each one resonates with a specific aspect of the astral light, serving as a conduit for the will of the magician. In Levi's view, the tools possess layered symbolism, echoing ancient traditions and biblical imagery, while also grounding the adept's spiritual intent in the physical world. Chapter 7 thus turns our attention to the purposeful design, consecration, and usage of these sacred tools, revealing how Levi sees them as extensions of the adept's spiritual authority and the moral obligations that accompany that power. Levi draws heavily on biblical and hermetic motifs in describing magical implements. For instance, when discussing the sword, he often evokes the image of Saint Michael triumphing over the dragon, or the archangel's flaming sword at the gates of Eden. In a hermetic sense, the sword is the instrument of discernment, used to banish illusions and cut away impurity. Levi teaches that its true power is an allegory for clarity of mind. However, in actual ceremonial magic, the sword's presence channels the adept's will, effectively defining the boundaries of the ritual space and defending it from malefic forces. Similarly, the wand, or rod, which recurs in the mythologies of Moses, Hermes, and countless magicians, stands for creative power and authority. Levi describes it as an embodiment of the magician's capacity to direct subtle energies. Where the sword separates and defends, the wand commands and invokes. By raising it, the adept calls upon higher realms or focuses the astral light onto a desired outcome. To Levi, the wand's efficacy is inseparable from the magician's own moral and mental alignment. Without the integrity to wield authority responsibly, the wand devolves into a hollow stick, devoid of true influence. Another pair of tools that Levi highlights are the chalice and the pantacle, each representing receptivity and material manifestation respectively. The chalice, often likened to the Holy Grail, symbolizes the feminine principle, the womb of creation, and the magician's capacity to receive divine influx. In many of Levi's rituals, the chalice is used to contain water or wine, elements that signify the fluidic nature of the astral light. Through consecration, the adept transforms this liquid into a symbolic medium for internalizing spiritual forces. Meanwhile, the pantacle, sometimes spelled pentacle in later traditions, is a disc or plate inscribed with sacred symbols, representing the material plane and its interplay with higher energies. Levi frequently associates the pantacle with earth, stability, and the crystallization of intent. In practice, it may hold physical offerings, salt, herbs, or small talismans that anchor the abstract aims of the ritual in a physical focal point. As with all magical implements, Levi's emphasis lies not simply on the object, but on the mindset and preparation the magician brings to its use. The pantacle becomes an altar in miniature, a symbolic microcosm of the world where the adept's will interacts with divine energies. In Levi's system, none of these tools is employed without consecration, a formal ceremony that dedicates them to magical work and purifies them from mundane influences. Drawing on medieval grimoire traditions, Levi details incantations, psalms, and invocations that align the implement's symbolic nature with the astral light. He specifies timing, often tied to planetary hours, and the need for an environment free from profane distractions. This process underscores that while the sword, wand, chalice, and pantacle have natural correspondences, their real power must be ritually awakened. Levi's instructions typically demand a synergy of elements: water for washing away impurity, incense for sanctification, and certain words of power or biblical verses to invoke divine blessing. He sometimes references passages from the Psalms, seeing in them an archetypal language that resonates across the astral plane. Yet once again, Levi warns that the adept's own purity of heart matters more than any formula. A half-committed magician reciting holy words can do little beyond produce empty ceremony. True consecration emerges where sincerity, discipline, and cosmic alignment converge. Beyond these implements, Levi also gives importance to the magical robe or vestment. Worn to the adept during ceremonies, to an outside observer, it may seem like theatrical costuming, but Levi frames it as a deliberate act of self-consecration, akin to the liturgical vestments worn by priests. By clothing oneself in a special garment reserved for high ritual, the magician consciously sheds mundane identity and steps into a sacred role. The vestment becomes a tangible signal, both to the astral light and to the magician's own psyche, that the person now acts as an intermediary between the human and the divine. This parallels Levi's broader notion that the adept, having gained insight into cosmic laws, effectively becomes a priest of nature, officiating at the altar of creation. Responsibility and reverence flow naturally from this identity. Like a priest performing sacraments, the magician must act with humility, aware that any misuse of arcane authority carries profound karmic repercussions. A central theme in Levi's discussions of magical implements is that these objects amplify the magician's will, they do not replace it. The sword's potency, for instance, depends on the adept's capacity to discern and banish negative energies, not on the blade's material composition. Similarly, a finely carved wand won't command astral forces if the user's will is diffused by selfish intentions or internal contradictions. The tool serves as a focal point, channeling and magnifying energies that originate within the adept's disciplined mind and heart. Levi occasionally likens the magician to a musician and the implements to instruments of an orchestra. A skillful musician brings life to an inanimate instrument. A novice produces noise. Thus, no matter how ornate the tool or how impressive the inscriptions, it remains inert in the hands of one who has not prepared themselves through introspection, moral refinement, and practice. In that sense, magical implements are both a blessing, allowing more precise interaction with subtle forces, and a test, revealing any shortcomings in the adept's understanding or will. By grounding the use of these tools in sacred ritual, Levi elevates the magician's role into a kind of priesthood. Not a priesthood bound to a specific church or dogma, but one that embraces the universal mysteries behind all religious tradition. The adept, standing before the altar with sword, wand, chalice, and pantacle, essentially reenacts the cosmological drama wherein spirit descends into matter, and matter aspires to unite with spirit. Each ritual act thus becomes a liturgical gesture, a way of affirming the cosmic order and calling upon higher powers to manifest blessings or transformations. Yet the concept of priesthood here does not imply dominion over others. Levi is adamant that the adept's authority is spiritual and moral, not hierarchical or coercive. True magical authority arises from communion with the divine principles that shape the astral light. In other words, the magician-priest is less a ruler than a custodian, responsible for preserving cosmic harmony and aiding in humanity's spiritual awakening. Any attempt to exploit that power for selfish ends undermines the entire enterprise, leading to spiritual downfall, a theme echoed in Levi's frequent moral warnings. With a full set of consecrated implements, the adept can orchestrate rituals that Levi often describes as sacred drama. The ceremonial layout, incantations, and gestures form a play in which each symbolic prop stands for a universal force. The sword draws a boundary against chaos, the wand summons higher energies, the chalice invites receptive communion, and the pantacle grounds the desired outcome in the material plane. In Levi's doctrine, performing a ritual is akin to living out a mythic narrative, moving from invocation, the call to higher powers, through consecration, the channeling of those powers into the earthly realm, to consummation, the manifestation of magical intent. By thoroughly engaging with this process, the adept not only attempts to alter outer circumstances, be it for healing, protection, or spiritual insight, but also furthers their own inner alchemical journey. The symbolic story told through ritual parallels the transformation occurring within the magician's psyche. Chapter 7 underscores that in Levi's world, objects matter, but only insofar as they mediate the astral light and reflect the adept's moral stance. A sword is not merely steel, it's a testament to discernment and courage. A chalice is more than a cup, it signifies the receptive vessel of the heart. By consecrating these implements and donning the vestments of ritual, the magician enters a sacred space where spiritual law operates more transparently. From here, our exploration of Levi's teachings will move into even subtler territory, how the adept navigates intermediate spirits, the difference between conjuration and illumination, and the interplay between personal destiny and universal providence. At each step, the magical implements remain vital companions, reminding the adept of their commitment to wisdom and service. Thus, the mystical priesthood Levi envisions is not a historical relic or a product of superstition. Instead, it represents the magician's vocational calling, a blend of humility, moral clarity, and creative will, grounded by tangible tools that remind the practitioner of the cosmic dance between matter and spirit. In wielding these sacred instruments, the adept steps into a lineage that spans from ancient temple rites to modern esoteric lodges. A lineage unified by the abiding principle that magic, when performed with reverence, is an act of communion with the divine. As Eliphas Levi's teachings progress, we come to an area where the moral and symbolic structures we've already encountered converge in a uniquely delicate way. The interaction with spiritual intelligences and the boundary between legitimate illumination and misleading illusions. Previous chapters have touched on necromancy and protective measures, but Levi also explores a broader hierarchy of spiritual beings, ranging from angelic presences to astral shells, and explains why the adept must tread carefully when calling upon them. Here we delve into how Levi distinguishes between conjuration, the summoning of external entities, and illumination, the awakening of higher insight within, and how both fit into the grand design of high magic. At the heart of Levi's cosmology lies a hierarchical conception of the spiritual realm, often drawing on Kabbalistic or Christian angelologies and weaving them into his hermetic philosophy. He proposes that there exist planes above and below human consciousness, some inhabited by benevolent or neutral entities, others teeming with confused or even malevolent presences. Much like a ladder that ascends from earthly life to the divine, each rung corresponds to a level of moral and spiritual refinement. Angels, archangels, and celestial intelligences occupy the higher rungs, radiating qualities such as compassion, wisdom, and pure will. Closer to humanity lie elemental spirits, astral forms, and fragmentary intelligences, some helpful, some mischievous, and some parasitic. Lower still, Levi warns, dwell the truly dark or chaotic entities that feed on fear and moral corruption. This layered view echoes the theme that everything from the subtlest light to the densest darkness exists within the continuum of the astral light. Conjuration is the practice of deliberately summoning a spiritual entity to gain knowledge, invoke assistance, or achieve some transformation. To the uninitiated, conjuration may sound like a purely external process, speaking archaic words until an external presence materializes. Levi, however, cautions that conjuration always reflects and amplifies the magician's inner state. If the adept is driven by vanity or delusion, the conjured spirit will mirror those internal flaws, taking on forms that mislead rather than enlighten. For Levi, successful conjuration hinges on moral clarity and a well-grounded sense of self. The adept must know why they are summoning a spirit, be it for healing, wisdom, or genuine service, and must carefully assess whether the knowledge or power sought is truly beneficial. Acting from curiosity or greed not only clouds the ritual's aim, but also invites illusions that the astral light can readily produce. In short, the magician who attempts conjuration without aligning purpose and virtue is more likely to commune with a projection of their own ego rather than an external intelligence. When done ethically, conjuration can be a powerful tool. Levi references biblical stories, hagiographies, and esoteric legends where prophets, saints, or wise magicians called upon angels or holy figures to guide communities, protect travelers, or reveal hidden truths. He equates this approach with working in the name of God, or at least in the name of the highest moral principles the adept can genuinely uphold. This framework ensures that the conjured presence resonates with higher truth, rather than playing into base impulses. Where conjuration focuses on contacting an external presence, illumination represents the inward ascent toward divine insight. Levi repeatedly stresses that no true spiritual knowledge is gained by external means alone. The greatest revelations, he argues, come from purifying one's consciousness so that cosmic truth can be directly experienced within. Prayer, meditation, and contemplative study all serve to dissolve the personal boundaries that separate the adept from higher levels of understanding. Illumination could be described as a vertical process, moving the magician's awareness upward through layers of the astral light until it touches something beyond ordinary intellect. Levi's metaphors for this journey often mirror the Kabbalistic tree of life, referencing stages where illusions fall away and the adept perceives universal realities directly. In this sense, conjuration and illumination are complementary. The adept might call upon a benevolent spiritual guide, and simultaneously refine the inner senses that allow them to hear the guidance without distortion. A recurring theme in Levi's work is that the astral light reflects back whatever the magician projects. This reflective property makes it tricky to distinguish between an authentic spiritual contact and the adept's own subconscious. Levi believes that rigorous self-examination is the antidote. The adept must learn to read subtle cues. Does the entity's message foster humility, moral responsibility, and coherence, or does it stoke arrogance, selfish desires, or confusion? Are the revelations consistent with higher truths gleaned from ethical teachings and recognized wisdom traditions, or do they contradict core moral principles? Levi points out that genuine spiritual entities often challenge the adept to grow, urging them toward compassion, service, or deeper insight. Illusory or malevolence forces, by contrast, flatter the ego, promise easy power, or prey on insecurities. Just as gold is tested by fire, the adept should test every visionary contact by the flames of reason and conscience. This method is an integral checkpoint on the path to advanced magical work, ensuring that conjuration and illumination both serve the overarching aim of moral and spiritual evolution. From a technical standpoint, Levi aligns conjuration with ritual structure, the elaborate steps, incantations, sacred symbols, and protective measures that we've explored in earlier chapters. When done correctly, these create a stable environment that helps filter out astral static and ground the magician's will. Consecrated implements, planetary timing, and the invocation of divine names combine to open a channel that resonates with a higher plane. Levi also insists that such rituals must be performed in a state of authority grounded in humility, an authority that arises from communion with universal laws rather than personal ego. Taking on the role of a priest of nature, as mentioned previously, the adept conducts the ceremony not to show off or dominate, but to enact cosmic principles in miniature. In that sense, the conjuration is as much as inner transformation as an external phenomenon. If the adept falters in moral conviction or clarity, the entire operation degenerates into theatrical illusion. Levi frequently uses the terms angels and demons, but his definitions are more nuanced than traditional religion might suggest. Angels in Levi's system are potent emblems of divine virtues, agents of love, justice, or wisdom, who embody celestial intelligence. Demons, conversely, often represent forces of chaos, deception, or unbridled desire. Yet Levi points out that many so-called demons might be mere astral fragments, residual energies left behind by intense emotions, haunting the subtle realms without conscious volition. For the adept, labeling these entities matters less than discerning their moral orientation. Whether an angel is a fully autonomous intelligence or a manifestation of cosmic virtue, it guides the adept toward compassion and wisdom. Whether a demon is an actual malevolent being or an astral shell, it tempts the adept to revert to baser impulses. Levi's advice is to respond appropriately, employing the sword of discernment and the wand of invocation according to the entity's nature. In other words, remain open to angelic aid, but stand ready to banish illusions with firm moral resolve. In Levi's worldview, external and internal practices reinforce each other. Each conjuration is an opportunity for illumination, as the adept tests the entity's guidance against inner wisdom. Conversely, each moment of illumination enhances future conjurations, refining the adept's capacity to sense whether an entity truly resonates with divine qualities. This reciprocity highlights Levi's broader message. Magic is never a purely external technology, nor is mysticism a purely inward reverie. Both form an integrated path where the adept simultaneously communes with cosmic intelligences and transforms their own consciousness. A final element Levi emphasizes is the role of providence, the ultimate benevolent force that underlies all creation. While the adept works through conjuration and illumination, Levi insists that no outcome is purely a result of human will. Rather, the cosmos responds to moral alignment. If the adept's intentions harmonize with the higher laws, providence often cooperates in unexpected ways, revealing synchronicities or offering subtle safeguards against grave mistakes. If, however, the adept tries to subvert cosmic harmony for selfish ends, the same universal principles can act as a corrective, sometimes harshly revealing the folly of hubris. Thus, even the mightiest conjurations and the most profound illuminations occur within a divinely ordered framework. For Levi, trusting in providence means recognizing that the ladder of spirits ultimately leads to a unifying source of all wisdom, a point at which personal ambition yields to cosmic purpose. When conjuration is grounded in humility and illumination is pursued in sincerity, the adept can ascend safely, guided by the steady light of divine providence. With Chapter 8, we see another layer of Levi's intricate system, the dance between external invocation and internal awakening, each acting as a mirror or catalyst for the other. Conjuration can yield valuable spiritual alliances or illusions that test the adept's discernment. Illumination can sharpen one's vision or reveal internal blocks that must be overcome. Throughout this interplay, Levi reminds us that no single technique stands alone. Each is woven into the broader tapestry of moral responsibility, symbolic knowledge, and cosmic law. In reflecting on Eliphas Levi's teachings, we see how destiny and free will intertwine to shape a path that balances universal forces with personal, moral choices. The adept, ever mindful of daily life's demands, must ensure that progress in esoteric arts never eclipses the ethical call to serve humanity. Ultimately, in Levi's cosmos, conjuration and illumination form two sides of the same coin, one outward, one inward, converging at the threshold of divine reality. It is there, at the meeting point of will and wonder, that higher truths await the earnest seeker.